Scotland is apparently stagnating. That is the verdict of a report published this morning by Carnegie UK, which reveals we're stuck in something of a rut, that life for the average Scot has failed to improve during 2024. Well, Adam Lang is one of the Foundation's directors. He's with us now. Morning to you, Adam.
Good morning.
What's not improved? Why have we stagnated?
It's a great question. So our Life in the UK Index, which we're publishing today for Scotland, tells us exactly that people's lives in Scotland are not getting better. There's a lot of detail in there, and there's a lot of things to dig into to try and understand that. What it primarily told us is that stagnation is driven by deep inequalities in our society. So whether you are on lower incomes, whether you are younger, whether you have a disability, you are more likely to experience lower levels of well-being across the range of questions that we asked, and they cover social well-being, economic, environmental and democratic issues. So it's driven by deep inequalities in our society. And the other thing that really stood out from these numbers is that the thing that's really dragging down our collective well-being is low democratic well-being across society. So that's the sense that people have any real and meaningful voice and choice over the decisions that affect their lives.
That's the one that's actually really interests me, especially in this year where we seem to have talked about nothing but elections and taken part in what felt like a very long democratic process.
Absolutely. So this survey was done earlier in the year, just ahead of the UK general election, and at a time of quite a lot of change in Scottish politics as well, with change in party leadership in the government in Scotland. But nonetheless, what this tells us, because we now have 2 years of this data and the numbers haven't really changed, and that's really telling in and of itself, that despite all the talk that we've had, despite this being one of the biggest years in history globally for democracy and elections, and despite it being the 25th anniversary of devolution in Scotland, people still feel a disconnect. They feel that they can't influence decisions that affect their lives, and they feel that they don't have meaningful levels of trust in the people making those decisions, whether that's UK government, Scottish government, or indeed local government as well. There's only a minority of people who feel they have any say over decisions that affect them.
And then does that have a knock-on impact then on how they feel about their situation? If they don't trust if they don't feel that they can influence the politicians or the local authorities, then they don't feel that they have much say over what changes in their life. Does that have a knock-on impact?
Well, we absolutely believe so, yes. At Carnegie UK, that's why we're really interested and passionate about this issue of democratic well-being, and why it's such an important part of this survey that we do annually. And that's because without a well-functioning democracy, without people feeling meaningful connection and engagement, we're not going to be able to meet the challenges that we face, which require difficult decisions, which require trade-offs from government policy. If we think about some of the big global and closer to home issues around things like net zero, or an ageing population, or a changing world of work, these are all big and meaningful political issues that are going to require policy interventions that not everybody is going to love, because they're inherently difficult issues. So without that sense of connection and trust and faith in democracy and the people making those decisions, we're kind of undermining our own efforts in this space, and we're storing up problems both for now but particularly in the future too.
You're asking people how they feel. But how someone feels is not necessarily fact. I'm interested in the fact that you looked at this and went, a fifth of Scottish public feel unsafe in their neighbourhood after dark. Just because somebody feels unsafe doesn't necessarily mean that crime's up or they are unsafe.
No, that's absolutely right. That's true. The way our survey was designed, there's 26 questions in 4 areas, those 4 areas of social, economic, environmental and democratic, and 26 questions across them. And what we do is we ask people to rate different responses to questions in those areas. We've designed the survey with Ipsos, so we know that it's really rigorous and robust, and we've surveyed over 6,700 people across the UK and over 1,100 here in Scotland. But what that's designed to do is to produce scores. So we know that the overall collective wellbeing score for Scotland is 62 out of a possible 100. And as I say, that's brought down significantly by a low democratic score. So those scores help give us insight beyond just how people feel, but they allow us to aggregate that and pull out averages to give us a sense of how the country is doing. How well are we living together or not?
And would you expect these to change every year? So you're hoping that by next year, when you're asking these questions, they'll have improved? Because a year doesn't seem like that long.
No, absolutely. And it's a big survey. We're committed to doing this annually. And the reason for that is we do want to track change over time. We certainly hope, and we at Carnegie UK work with governments across the country and here in Scotland to try and make things better. We believe in the role of policy to improve people's lives. But we also have to be honest and reflect that what the numbers are telling us is that over the last year, our well-being has been stagnant in Scotland and across the UK, all nations of the UK. So we hope that things can improve, but there's not much evidence of that at the moment.
Adam, thank you very much indeed for explaining all of that. Adam Lang there from Carnegie UK.